Powered by Go-Goat Sports in partnership with TSN. This is episode 38. It is season 4 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, and it is presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey. So, Ray Ferraro, obviously, you're seeing me. I mean, our subscribers are either watching on the YouTube channel or they're listening. They're not seeing me. Either way, I'm at the Cabbage. I'm here in Manitoba and went ice fishing yesterday and didn't catch much. I'm not going to lie. We sat out there, three of us, probably the better part of 3.5 hours. But this is how I know it's you're just looking at me.
Why don't you just go sit in a snowbank for 3 hours, you dummies?
Okay, hold on. But this is aside from visiting, it was my nephew and a good friend.
Yeah.
This is how technology has shifted. So it's not just the luxury of the hut. Like, it's not just, the fishing hut is no longer what it once was, right? This thing is decked out. Okay. It's got a wood stove. You can cook on it. There's music, but there's a TV, which can be a satellite TV if you choose to use it for that. These guys, though, instead of installed a camera, so they drop the camera into one of the holes that you would normally use for fishing, and you can see the fish approaching your hook. So it's like standing in front of a fish tank, and you're only in this case you've got your little fishing rod, your jig, and you're trying to entice them to take the hook, which didn't work for me, but I was mesmerized for the better part of an hour watching these fish come up to the hook and, I don't really want that, and then buggering off. But the first 2 hours, Ray, nothing. Like freshwater shrimp were like drifting by. That was all I saw for the better part of 2.5 hours.
When you're talking about this, about I think 3 or 4 months ago, Cammie and I got our grandkids, Enzo and Aria, amazing gifts to our life. They wanted a fish tank, so we got a fish tank.
Yeah.
I watch the fish swim by every day. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Outstanding. I'm in my house. I got my slippers on. It's warm. I know you're warm. You got a heater on the ice to sit in a hut. Like, what is wrong with you people? I can't think of anything less interesting to me. Now, which of course is why everybody does whatever they do. Everybody loves something different. But if I come to the Cabbage and you suggest, let's go sit on the ice in a hut and watch fish swim around, I can't even imagine what would be less interesting. How about if I cook breakfast till you come back in and then
read a book?
Read a book and, I'm like, oh man, like, honestly.
That's exactly what Holly did. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guarantee she had more things going on in that 3 hours than you did, which is maybe the point. I don't know. Maybe that's the point.
I'll wrap up the story with this because Kelly, my nephew, asked that very question. He said, Ray talks about coming to the Cabbage all the time on the podcast, or he's mentioned it a few times anyway. Instantly, I was like, I mean, it's got to be in the summer so that we can cruise on the boat, we can play golf, we can do what he is going to enjoy. I said, this is not one of those things. And we all got a hearty laugh out of trying to visualize Ray Ferraro in this hut for 3.5 hours. So anyway.
Well, I remember the first time I heard of it. Like, honestly, I didn't even really know ice fishing.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in Trail. Nobody ice fishes there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't even think of like why this would be a thing.
Yeah.
And then I hear about, oh no, they run power out there. It's warm. And I'm like, well, I guess that's somewhat better, but
yeah, that was a good visit. The only thing distasteful about it, and I'm getting soft now that I've lived in Ontario since 1998, was you use live bait. So you're using live minnows, small minnows, but they go on the hook alive and they squirm for 3+ hours on the end of the hook. And I'm like, this just doesn't seem right. Like, this poor creature is like twisting on the end of this hook. We're keeping it alive in the water, but honestly, like, it's
way to keep him alive, Dregs. I'm sure he's thrilled.
Headlines again this season represented by our friends at Boston Pizza. It's hard to segue from a minnow twisting on the end of a hook to our friends at Boston Pizza, but
No.
I've tried my best. Okay, so you're soon to be traveling again. Where are you going? Back to Tampa Bay?
Oh yeah, we just got back. Turning around and going right back.
So give us the All-Star experience. I mean, you were there for the game in Florida. I feel like the ones that I've attended are always great locally, right? Because everybody embraces it. You have a good time. You go there, and we've talked about it here on the podcast before. You limit your expectations of what the competition is, but you embrace and have a good time with what the event is over the course of the weekend. And I'm going to assume that it was well attended, great put together event, and aside from some of the critics who didn't like the skills competition, don't love the game, all that was a pretty good weekend, right?
I talked to a few people that were at various events. The NHL alumni had a couple of boat cruises, where like 100 guests went out and they listened to stories from Mark Messier and Wayne Gretzky, Chris Chelios. I guess I ran into Glenn Healy, our good friend and director of the Alumni Association. He said it was phenomenal. He said
would be
the stories the guys told were hilarious. People really, really enjoyed it. There was, the stuff down at the beach and fan zones and that. The one thing I think I'm more of a fan, Dregs, of if everything can be in a tight zone where it's like for example, the All-Star zone, not spread out.
Right.
Where, that event over there, you don't even know what's going on because it's over there.
Yeah.
And you're over here. And so, of course, there's a little bit of that because the beach is over there. And now maybe it'll be different in Toronto next year. Well, it will be different. Of course it will be. Maybe they'll,
right.
I don't know, could they do like a whole fan fest in Sky Dome, or is the dome going to be, or Rogers Center, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Sky Dome. How old am I? And, or maybe the thing's still under construction as they do the renovations in there and they can't. But like that would be something I think would be really cool. I would love to, well attended. The local people that were there loved it. The sponsors had a great time. That's all. It's kind of a lost leader for the NHL because you reward the sponsors, you thank the sponsors, you treat them well, you build your partnerships, and that's a lot about what the business side is. As for the skills, my opinion is they're trying to be too much to too many different things. And the problem with that is it becomes disjointed. I'd like to see the events tightened up, find out what events the players want to do. Because if you ask them and the players want to do them, then you'll get better participation, more participation.
Yeah.
Try and make the night tighter.
Right.
How about if instead of a 2.5 hour window that the event was in, what about if the event was 90 minutes and then there was a concert after? So people get, for what they're paying, they get a full night's entertainment.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
How about if the skills actually, you were rewarded points in the skills, and so each division accumulates points in the skills, and those points become rewards in the game the next day.
Okay.
So maybe if you win, you get to start the game 1 goal ahead. If you come second, you start at 0. If you start at third, you start at 0. If you finish fourth, you start at -1. Like, make it mean something. There's still $1 million on the line the next day. Like, make them kind of all one event.
Yeah.
I actually thought the games, Dregs, were pretty good.
Yeah.
Like the second game was the best game of the three.
Yeah.
It was the best. And of course, the people in Florida loved it. Matthew Tkachuk had a fabulous day, and the Tkachuk family with Brady and Matthew were there. It was cool to see Ovi and Sid, team up for a couple of goals. I said to Ovi, he was sitting there during a break, I go, "Oh, I didn't know you were an assist guy." And he said, He goes, oh, secret weapon. And I said, for 20 years, I've been watching the wrong thing. And he goes, always surprises, always surprises.
So good. And having his son there was neat too, right? Like that's part
Really
of the
cool.
experience.
Well, in the hallway, as we're getting ready to go, I mean, there's little kids running all over the place, right?
Yeah.
It's really cool, but not as many as you would think, because most of the All-Stars are young.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Like the game is in a really great place for growth.
Yeah.
Because I think the Metro was the only division really that was kind of older. They had 5 guys over 30.
Right.
But for the most of it, they were the guys were 23, 24.
Yeah.
It was really interesting to see.
So Sidney Crosby makes a bit of news only because, Sid is always politically correct. And I mean that within the confines of hockey, right? I mean, not that he would be otherwise, but when he answers a question that doesn't pertain to the specific game or situation of the Pittsburgh Penguins, he thinks about it. He gives it some thought. So he shares a very honest take. And one of the things going in, I think we can all appreciate is, okay, is it finally time the NHL revisited the playoff format? And recent history tells us Commissioner Bettman always pushes back. It's the why fix something that isn't broken approach from the commissioner's office. I thought it was very interesting. So Crosby, as we know, says he'd prefer 1 versus 8. Give reward to the team that shows excellence in the regular season beyond home ice advantage. There has to be more incentive than what we see now. Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley acknowledged something that I always go back to, right? So if we're the critics of the game and we want to, be critical, and I'm not saying you and I, but let's just generalize. And I say this to Carlo Koliakovo all the time, because you know how active Carlo is on Twitter and social media. And he's always, the NHL is doing this wrong. They need to do this better and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, Carlo, you have to understand process. It's not like Bettman is sitting in the chair in Manhattan and saying, well, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this. I mean, he's the head of the league, but it's the general managers normally that facilitate any meaningful change. So when Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley, said a couple of years ago, they put it to a vote at a GM meeting whether or not the general managers wanted some tweaks, wanted to change the existing format. 2/3 said, nope, it's fine the way it is. That's very, very telling to me, right? Because again, lots of the blowhards out there say, yeah, but the commissioner doesn't want to do anything. All right, but if the general managers are as invested as some are, not all, obviously, but some, it can be changed. It can be changed. So should the pressure be on each individual general manager to facilitate and encourage that change?
Well, okay, so that was from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Half of those guys aren't even employed anymore. How about the
Probably
guys
true.
that are here
Yeah,
now?
probably true.
So I have this thought. We hear a lot, Dregs, game's never been in a better place. More skilled, more talented, all that stuff. I don't care. I love that. I love the skill of the game. But if the game's in the best place it's ever been, why can't we still look to improve it? Why does it have to stay? Why can't it, whatever, even if you improve it by 3%, then it's better.
Yeah.
You're not going to make these huge leaps and bounds. I, as you know, I think you'd probably find out difficult to find somebody in the game, like in the media, that cares less who wins than I do. I'm serious. I
agree.
I
could
not
that.
care less.
Yeah.
I actually feel sorry for Toronto that they've had this really great run over the last regular season run over the last 5 years. Unfortunately, they're in a 5-year window where the Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning are amazing teams.
Yeah.
And they get punched in the nose every year in the first round. Does it really make sense to have the number 5 team in the league and the number 4 team in the league play in the first round? It really doesn't.
No.
It really doesn't. I've been on this thing with you, and we've talked about it on the podcast, so without going into a whole thing, but maybe one time I'll draw it up and I can just hold it up and people can see it. But is I don't think 1-8 as a standalone is exactly the best way to go. I do think the regular season, we tell everybody it's important, but really, is one extra home game that important? Really? Like, you play 82 games to try and get one extra home game against a team that's probably got 4 points less than you? Like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I told you, Dregs, we've talked about that, the system I see in Germany, where Landon plays, my son. Man, there's races all over the place. At the end of the day, the first 2 teams get a bye out of the play-in round.
Right.
That's a big bonus. You don't have to play. You're not going to get stung in that first round. Then it becomes 1-8.
Yeah.
More teams become involved. So instead of, for the play-in round, it's 7, 8, 9, and 10 in each conference. The difference in those teams is generally just a few points. Mm-hmm. So if 20 teams are engaged in a playoff fight, doesn't that mean more revenue? Doesn't that mean more interest amongst the teams?
Yeah.
I really find it hard to say this is the best that we can do and we should not revisit it. I can't believe general managers, they're in the middle of a rebuild or at the tail end of a rebuild. They're like, it should only be 8 teams in there. Would they not want a little cookie to try and get their fan base a little bit more engaged? To me, you can't. I think it is short-sighted to say, it's too hard, we can't do it. If that was the case, we'd still be rolling around in the car that you cranked to start.
Yeah, but you're also somebody that I think we all are, to a point, our vintage that is. You want to embrace tradition, right? So to do something that drastic, you've got to be reasonably certain it's going to pay off. From a fan perspective, from a club perspective, all of that, because you never get a do-over. Like if it's 22-23.
I can't think of one reason how this doesn't work.
Okay, yeah.
Dregs, I spend a lot of time on airplanes. I got a lot of time to stare out the window. Yeah. They have real life years of data to take a look at. Look at other leagues, what they do. If you've got 5 grocery stores and their revenue, right, is the 5, and you add 3 more grocery stores, I'm pretty sure that's more revenue.
Yeah.
That's more interest. That's more shoppers. That's what we're talking about with the fans. You'd have more people engaged longer in the process before you get to the playoffs. To me, to not explore it, you're leaving meat on the bone here that doesn't need to be left.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a topic for sure at the upcoming general managers meetings because, again, the commissioner's office laid that on the table for us, right? I mean, 2/3 2 years ago of general managers didn't want to change. Okay, well, let's see what the updated version is. Without question, they'll be talking about that. Bo Horvat, 8 years, 8.5 annual average salary. Anyone even remotely surprised that this deal got done, announced as quickly as it did? I wasn't. I'm sure you weren't. I mean, that is so typical of Lou Lamoriello. Pay the price, give the 3 assets to acquire a good piece in Bo Horvat, but you're not paying that price, which was fair, for a rental player. 8.5? Is that reasonable, or is that too much for a player who's, 28 years old?
Well,
it's market value. So right now it's market value for Bo Horvat, I would think.
Okay, so 2 things. One, the deal's made, and Bo Horvat and his agent, Pat Morris, are sitting so far in the catbird seat, there's 0 chance they're not going to get a mammoth offer.
Yeah, zero.
So it is really interesting to me, though, the in-season guys that sign their chance for free agency and is just a few months down the road. And I'm not singling out Bo here, who, by the way, is a terrific guy. He really is. I actually saw him on the ice in Tampa, and or Fort Lauderdale. Where was there? It was in Sunrise. And at the All-Star game, and I'm like, hey, best of luck to you. I think you're going to really like Long Island. Drive around. It's not just at the rink. Like, drive around. You're going to really like it. And he's a really nice guy. He's not a 45 goal scorer. He's not a 40 goal scorer. He might get 40 this year, but last year he had 31. That was a career high. He's not going to go on a run of career high years now. Like, statistically, it tells you that does not happen. He's a 60-point-ish centerman. If that's the market is $8.5 million for about the 48th time, I wish I was born 20 years later. Because holy smokes, that's a lot of money. So now the Islanders have $17.7 million in Matt Barzal and Bo Horvat.
Yeah.
Ooh,
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I love Lou's honesty. I don't know if 5 minutes after you sign the contract, if you need to come out and say it's too long and too much money.
It was outstanding.
I'm a little dicey on that. Could you imagine, as we've spent a lot of time talking about the Vancouver market. Could you imagine if Patrick Allvin came out and had signed a guy and said, yeah, it's too long and too much money. Oh my gosh, it would have. But Lou said it. It is what it is. The Islanders have a lot of money committed to guys in their upper 20s and early 30s. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I don't know. We'll see if of course, the deal is all dependent on whatever that first round pick's going to be, whatever Aatu Ratu's going to be, whatever Anthony Beauvillier is going to be, like in Vancouver. So you won't know the return for some time, but man, that's a lot of money.
It is
paid to Bo Horvat. Good for him. Yeah, God bless him.
No points in a 2-1 win over the Flyers. Just over 19 minutes of ice time, and we'll keep an eye on Bo moving forward here. Look, we were going to talk about the East for a moment, but why don't we just push ahead and see what Thursday brings? But it's interesting, right? The Islanders are in that fight. Buffalo Sabres are in that fight. Florida just throttled the Tampa Bay Lightning on Monday. They're in that fight. So for me, anyway, now is where it gets interesting. You come out of the All-Star, you've got 25 to 30 games left in the regular season. The trade deadline is encroaching, so there's lots of reasons for us now to pay attention to the standings.
Dregs, I'm going to say one thing before, I know we got to go. So Buffalo's in that mix.
Yeah.
They got 3 games in hand. They went through a stretch 10 days ago. They won 3 straight games with 3 different goals. Yeah. Like, I just find the whole thing kind of amusing. I know I am cheering for Buffalo because of my brother-in-law who's done a tremendous job there. And they're exciting and they're fun and they're so young and I don't know. I'm like, can they make up that ground? Washington seems like they're in tough. It feels like, Pitt's got some games in hand on them too. And, Florida has viewed this as a gap year. They call it a gap year, right? Like between, trying to run money off the books and all that sort of stuff. However, they've played their way right back in.
Yeah, they're right there. It's going to be fun to watch. All right, those are your headlines. Thanks again to Boston Pizza.